Hello, this is the Earth Below. Just wanted to have a little back porch chat with you tonight. And I want to talk about something that's very important. Something I've been planning on doing for a while now, and finally just have a good opportunity to do this. That's the idea of moral rebellion. And basically the idea came to me, well, I've had these concepts in my head for a long time. Especially through a conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be atheist, agnostic. He's told me before that he's an atheist, but he's also told me that he can't really be 100% sure. But he's always challenged me with very good questions about my faith and about morality, and we've had a lot of good discussions over the years, and we're good friends. And then also a favorite, say, Christian metal band called As I Lay Dying. The lead singer started a clothing line that he called Modern Rebellion, and it happened to be very similar ideas to what these ideas tonight are going to talk about. Now, he has nothing to do with me directly, so I don't want to give the wrong impression there, but it's just something that I saw that it sparked the idea in my mind to actually do the videos on moral rebellion. And so what is rebellion? When I think about rebellion, I guess the typical view we might view of youth and kids and teenagers rebelling against their parents, rebelling against the church, rebelling against authority, and there's always the old rebellious battle cry of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that was essentially rebellion. Kids would rebel from the norm, rebel from what they were taught and what they were told, to figure things out for themselves, and they would experiment, with the opposite sex and with drugs and alcohol and smoking and with their rock and roll and entertainment. But is that really a rebellion anymore? Is that what the modern rebellion is? When sex is everywhere you look, in almost everything you see, when movies now that are called PG-13 used to be R or even NC-17 a few years ago. It doesn't seem to me that that's really rebellion anymore. It seems to me that that's the status quo. I mean, how can we actually expect anything different from our kids when this is the world that they're surrounded by? It's the world they live in. It's what all their friends are doing. It's what pop culture is all about. We've come a long way from Elvis Presley on the Ed Sullivan Show to Lady Gaga. So it just doesn't quite seem like that's actual rebellion anymore. What would be the modern rebellion? To me, it's a moral rebellion. Now, I am a Christian, and a lot of this does come directly from my Christian faith. But you don't have to be a Christian. You can disagree with me all you want. But I hope that we can agree on principle and its effect on society. So let's start with the first one, sex. And I'm going to try to be concise with this because I actually tried doing this video last night and I let it load all night while I was sleeping, and in the morning I came up and it was rejected because it said it was too long. So I'm going to try to be concise with this. Sex. It has permeated almost every aspect of our culture. So again, how can we expect our kids to do or act or think any different? And yet, my atheist friend of mine made a comment one time that on the idea of abstinence and drugs and different things, was that Christians live with all these rules, and people who aren't religious don't have to have those rules. They're more free. And it just immediately came to me, who's more free? Who lives without AIDS? Who lives without STDs? Where would abortion be? Where would illegitimate children be? Where would teenage pregnancy be? Can you imagine our society without AIDS, without gonorrhea, without abortion, even an issue that we had to deal with, without illegitimate children, without, 16, 17-year-old girls being pregnant? I mean, our society would be one step closer to heaven, wouldn't it? How much less government involvement would we need if we were being responsible sexually, and not putting young girls in that situation, not having all these diseases, not having all these controversial topics like abortion. Now, like I said, it comes from my Christian faith, but it does not come from an attitude of thinking that Christians are perfect. I want to make that clear. Christians too are on a lifetime of growth, and we make mistakes just like anybody else. That's why I'm hoping to appeal to you simply on principle, on what exactly should we be striving for as a society, whether we agree on religion or not. But I think we can all agree on the effects of sexual irresponsibility and immorality in our society. Now, a lot of you can be non-religious, and you can be sexually promiscuous, and you can be responsible. But I don't think we can look at our society and think that's necessarily the norm, or think that it's not a problem. And God's laws would want a man and a woman to be abstinent until marriage, and then to be with that spouse for the rest of your lives. If we did that, again, where would AIDS be? Where would STDs be? Where would, like I said, abortions and teenage pregnancies and all kinds of different things get complicated from it? It may not be 100% achievable, but I think it is something that we can all strive for when we realize the positive effects of it. Number 2, the drugs. Alcohol. There's nothing wrong in my mind, and there's nothing wrong in the Bible with just having a drink, but the idea of intoxicating yourself means the idea of losing sobriety. So within the realm of intoxication, who makes the majority of all the stupid decisions? Those who are sober or those who are intoxicated? Can you imagine a world without drunk drivers? Without the lost lives, the ruined families, the lost jobs, the death, the crime? How much more stable our society would be if people were not abusing drugs and alcohol. And you know, the pot issue these days is not even one of my big topics that I'm worried about. I'd be more worried about people with alcohol than with weed. But people being sober and making smart decisions, how much better would that be for our society? Already with sex, we're looking at a society without STDs and abortion and illegitimate children and things. Now we're looking at a society without all the ruined lives from drugs, without all the crime and the death and the killing and the stealing and just the loss of dignity and pride in oneself. And lastly, to try to move along, rock and roll. Again, to me this is just a metaphor really for entertainment. It's not picking on rock and roll in itself. But we look at how we entertain ourselves. We're in a place where this country was a day away from default, regardless of how bad that was actually going to be. I know there's a lot of differing opinions on that. But we're drowning ourselves in our escapes, whether it's through movies, through video games, through music. And again, there's nothing wrong with movies or video games or music. It's a matter of how we spend our time and our money and what we are investing ourselves in compared to, say, our family. I have to sacrifice a lot of entertainment things from when I was single to now having a wife and a son, because my family is that much more important and that much of a better investment of my time and resources than music and video games and movies and things. But also going back to sexuality, and you look at people like Lady Gaga and all the hip-hop and even the modern hard rock stuff, and how much of that is just permeated with the sex and the drugs, and what that's doing to our society. The entertainment side really, to me, has more to do with time and how we spend our time and what we really give so much of our energies for. I don't think there's anything wrong with playing a video game, you know, a couple hours a week or something like that, but when people get lost in them for hours and hours a day, every day, and they've created a false world that to me is a bit sick. That's the way I look at it. I'd rather spend the most of my time in reality with real people, and it just seems like people have been looking for an escape everywhere they look, when I think it's time now to stop escaping. It's time to face the enemy. It's time to face the problems in our country and our society and deal with them and do what needs to be done, whether we all agree on everything or not. I think we can all agree that bringing back a moral foundation for our society would help this country a lot. People going out and if you're unemployed, get off the government payroll. And I know you paid into it, but what's better for society? You taking unemployment or going out and getting a job? It may not be the best job, it may not be the job you want, but if you're working, you're being an active, productive part of society. I've always worked. I've only been on unemployment once. I've taken temporary jobs, I've taken, restaurant jobs, I've gone backwards in my jobs to just keep myself working. And I haven't always been responsible, but I really do try, and I believe I'm getting better and better as I go throughout my life. So I hope you think about these things and the idea of moral rebellion and modern rebellion and how it can positively affect our society. Again, I know it's probably easier said than done. No one's perfect. I don't believe it's 100% achievable. It's not my job to judge you or anybody else as to where you are in your life. I'm just hoping to appeal to you on principle, and that we can agree on that and start striving for a better life for ourselves and our country. I mean, how better would your life be if you were sober and making smart decisions? How better would your life be if you weren't having to deal with taking your girlfriend to the abortion clinic? One of my best friends had to do that and went through that. I live with an alcoholic father. I had my own problems with alcohol. I'm not exaggerating, I should be dead 2 or 3 different times from drinking. But all of us have stories like this, whether it's direct or indirect. And I think if we were striving for a higher ideal, the impact it would have on society would be immeasurable. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate all comments and even civil debate. I will not tolerate hate speech from either Christians or atheists. I've seen too much of that on YouTube, but we can all be civil. One of my best friends, like I said, he's atheist, so we've had great conversations. We've never ever said a harsh word to each other about anything. So thank you again for your time. Please pass it along, comment, send me a PM, whatever. Good night.